Hey, I'm Susanna Lanier, actor and acting coach for over 25 years.
I'm Jess Greenberg, casting director for over 10 years.
We're here to help you navigate this crazy, creative, and sometimes chaotic journey into the film and television world.
We share our insights as to what works.
And invite some pretty spectacular guests to share more ideas to move you on your journey.
So without further ado, let's get into the show.
Today, we have the pleasure of speaking with Kenny Wong. Originally from BC, he is now based in Montreal after just completing his final season of Transplant. And as well as having a successful acting career, he is also an award-winning screenwriter and violinist. Welcome!
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're
Thank
happy
you
you're
so much
here.
for being here. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I guess we caught you at a good time, maybe a bittersweet time that you just wrapped.
Yeah, I'm still processing, but
bet.
it's yeah, I'm
Very
still
cool.
thinking about it.
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm sure. Well, we'll get to that a bit later. We want to start from the beginning as we normally do. So
Sure.
You are from BC. What brought you to Montreal?
I grew up playing the violin, and then I went to music school at McGill. So I when I was 18, I moved over to Montreal to study there, and then I just kind of stayed. And then stuff happened with which I guess we'll discuss a little bit later, and then I became an actor.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. So you studied music performance at McGill.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And so I actually didn't know that there's a difference between music performance degrees and music in general.
Music performance and music education would be the two differences. Like, when music education is like if you're looking to teach and all that stuff. Music performance is when you want to pursue a life in performance, like orchestra or quartet or solo work and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I was in the performance program.
Okay.
So was that the goal at that time? You were hoping to get into performance, like part of a symphony?
Yeah,
that was the goal?
That was my dream, and then
Wow.
whirlwind change happened, and I had to change careers.
Wow. So, okay, well, we could get into that right away.
Sure.
So,
sure.
Yeah.
I feel like I was so like vague and mysterious about it. It's like
something crazy happened. And
Yeah.
I mean, I could just imagine that being really devastating. So when was it part of while you were in school, or was it after?
Yeah. So, at that level, you're kind of practicing like 6 to 8 hours a day. And
Okay.
so, it was a lot. And I was very, disciplined. I could sit in that chair for 6 hours and not eat and just practice and stuff. So I think what happened was I think it was 2020, 2019, I was at home back in Vancouver and was practicing, not doing anything else, not seeing anybody, practicing for like a performance exam. And then I just started noticing something weird in my left hand. I didn't think much of it at that time. But then, like a month or two later, when I was back in Montreal again, I don't think I took a day off, but I would go into my lesson, and then all of a sudden my finger completely just retracts and like slams onto my violin. And I realized then that there was something seriously wrong. And then I was later diagnosed with focal hand dystonia, which was like a neurological movement disorder, and which is like they described it as like a disconnection from the brain to, your limb. And I knew then I didn't know then. I was really hoping that, it was fixable, but then I learned there was no cure to it. And everything I tried, Botox injections, paralyzed my hand at some points. I couldn't play for 2 months. And I knew that was going to be the end. I was going to finish my degree. And I was like, that's it. That's going to be the end of it. And then I decided to pursue another performing art in acting. So.
Right.
It's crazy. Is it something that like you were Like, is it something you're born with, and then because of the use of your hands that it sort of triggers it, or like it was a fluke?
I don't think I was born with it because I was totally fine. There
Yeah.
was nothing wrong up to that, that winter holiday back home. And then it started progressively getting worse. So I think it was just from over practicing,
Yeah.
like you think that's how you get better, but then that's how you suddenly get worse. So I think, yeah.
Wow.
Well,
Can you play like leisurely now, or?
I, I can. It's hard because my third finger kind of just still does whatever it wants sometimes.
Yeah.
So I can't play fast stuff anymore. And again, there's these moments of hope when you're like, oh, when you're practicing, it's like, oh, it feels better. You're making adjustments with your elbow and your hand and all that stuff. You think you can try to change up the positions and all that stuff. And then you kind of you're given a sense of hope that's like, oh, maybe I can play back at the level that I dreamed of. But then once you get into performance mode and nerves kind of take over, you're not thinking like just as like an actor, you're not thinking about technique or anything. You're just playing. All of that kind of goes out the window. And then I remember playing a quartet concert that I haven't played in chamber music for like 10 years at that point, and it it really solidified that, even after all that work, months of work of trying to work around it, it's just it couldn't do it.
Yeah.
So now I just teach and I play, when I teach and stuff, and that's pretty much the extent of it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, on one hand, I can't imagine like that, the sadness and pain that you must have felt like going through that and getting that news. But on the other hand, like, would you have ever pursued acting? And sometimes, like, that redirection, I'm sure you would have
Yeah.
had major success as a violinist as well. But
I've
yeah.
always had a love for acting. Like I did it in high school and everything. And even when I was in music school, I decided I wanted to take an acting class.
Mm-hmm.
So even before that injury kind of occurred. So I feel like, having that early love for it, making that transition was a little bit like, oh, made a little bit more sense.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't kind of just out of the blue after I like quit the violin that I was like, maybe I'll do this. And it was like, no, it overlapped a bit, but I considered it more of a hobby at that point than it was like, oh, I want to do this.
Right.
So
And the work ethic that you put into your music, did that transfer into your acting?
I would say so.
Yeah.
I feel like that's just ingrained in me. Like, I was taking classes. I had a crazy university life. Like I would, even despite the dystonia, I would try to practice as much as I could. I was going through school. I was also teaching like 20 students at that point in school. And then I was also taking acting classes every Tuesday. And then that class requires three rehearsals every week.
Oh my God.
So it was a bit crazy. So I think it was just ingrained in me. It's like whatever I do, I want to be really in it.
Yeah.
Right.
So what came first? Was it, I mean, you were pursuing acting as a bit of like hobby, but then you also wrote a script, Dystonia, about
Yeah.
your
So the script that was the first time that I started kind of accepting what happened. I was in denial for a long time.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
then I think I forgot who it was, encouraged me. It's like, you should write that story, tell that story. I was like, okay. And then I started learning how to write screenplays and stuff. And, and now it's my biggest passion project to this day. We've made a short film of it. I've been working on it with a story editor. I've attached a couple of people to it, and we're still hoping to make it and tell that story.
Very cool.
Right. So but you won some awards for the screenwriting of that story too, right? And some,
Yeah,
yeah.
that was a shock. that was
Yeah.
that was so early on, and I was just like, okay, I finished the script. What do I do with it now? And then I remember like kind of seeing a few things. Sorry about that. See a few things come across. It's like, oh, I can submit this, and but you at that point, I was so early on in my writing career, and not even like at that point, not even a career, but like aspirations
Journey.
and
Mhm.
learning. You're learning about it,
Yeah.
and then I got into the Toronto Screenwriting Conference, and I think at that conference, I won a Telephone New Voices award, and it really just boosted my desire to write more.
Right.
Yeah, and it was such a great conference because you have the best in the world at that conference, just chatting about writing and storytelling and all that stuff. You're just like, yeah, I want to do this. So I
Very
think
Yeah.
that's how it
You're
came to be.
surrounded by like very motivated and like accomplished writers and
100%.
yeah.
Hundred
So
percent.
that film hasn't been made yet.
Yeah, I wrote the feature, and then with a friend of mine, we made a short film concept
Right.
of it. So it's not the actual film, but we used it
Okay.
as as kind of pitching material to do it. And I just said to myself, if this feature never gets made, at least I have this
Right.
to
Right.
be proud of. And but I've kind of been continuing to work on the feature and pass it around, trying to find the right people to work on it with.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, if it's a goal of yours, I've no doubt it's going to happen because they say these things can take 7 years, 10 years. They're like, it was shelved and then it came back up and then it was shelved. And then finally it fell into the right hands and
Yeah.
got made. And considering you've already won awards for it and it sounds like a great story. It's a sad coming of age story, but it's a great story that I think people will relate to. And it's
Yeah.
so maybe somebody here is listening. There's a great feature out here that needs a producer. Jess is thinking
Yeah.
of producing, so you
Yeah,
see,
thanks.
you
Amazing.
never
Yeah,
know. You
Yeah, I
know,
have
fingers
a big
crossed.
portfolio of projects that I would like to make,
yeah,
and we're just
yeah.
figuring out how to get that done.
Get that.
I found when I was even now, I'm like the business of being an actor, like
Yes,
that side of it is so difficult. And then I started learning about the writing business, and I'm like, my gosh,
that's worse. That's
my
worse.
gosh.
So you're a self-taught writer.
Yeah,
Nice.
I wrote a lot. I was happy to share it for feedback and notes and stuff. So I learned in that regard. I did a lot of script reading, I did a lot of research on formatting and learning about act structures and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was like I didn't go to school or anything from it. It was a lot of just um, learn from your mistakes, learn from the right people, and reading a lot of scripts and learning from them as well.
Cool. And
Yeah.
when you made the short film, was that self-funded or you applied for grants? Did you get
We
uh
applied for a few grants, a few like a Quebec government grant, and there was a really minor grant in Toronto that my co-producer had applied for.
okay.
So, thankfully nothing was out of pocket for that one.
Yeah.
So
You're
yeah.
good. That's
Well,
good.
yeah, I got it. Yeah.
Amazing. That's so good.
Yeah. Yeah, we really lucked out. I feel like everything just fell into place that for that project. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So, Kenny, actually, you haven't been a professional actor for that many years, and you've had huge success already. I mean, so, how long have you been auditioning for? Because you're kind of like you book everything. Like it seems like every project in town you book. I mean, smaller roles, bigger roles. We'll talk a little later about Transplant because that's a big one.
Yeah.
But did you just start booking right away, like the minute you got an
My
agent, or how was it? How was your
my
process? Because it sounds like you've just jumped right in and become a booking machine.
No,
There's no overnight successes, Susanna.
yeah,
That's
no.
right. He's going to tell us about it. He's going to tell, yeah.
My gosh. It took me about 6 years of training for me to get to the confidence of wanting to do it professionally.
Okay.
I think that's kind of how I grew up. Again, that's what's ingrained in me. It's like, no, you gotta earn to get to that level,
Right.
Yeah.
And so it was maybe 2 years after, 1 or 2 years after I finished my degree, and then I was getting excited about it. But then I started auditioning, but then it was also the most frustrating thing because I couldn't book,
Right. And were
but it was
you
also really early on. Like I didn't have any credits and stuff, so I was
right?
working as a non-union actor. I remember just one. This is so vivid to me because I remember just laying in my bed and just being like, I'm never gonna get my first credit. I'm just never gonna get it. And then literally a week later, I would get an audition for 19.2, and then I booked that one. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my god! My agent told me. I remember I was just about to go into acting class, and I remember just running up and down the streets because I was just so excited. I was just, and then from there, I feel like things kind of just started rolling,
Yeah.
fortunately, and kind of went on from there.
Wow.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
I have friends
amazing.
who like did not study as long and right away got into it. I'm like,
Yeah.
I hate you.
Well, the casting process and what's trending at the time, like there's so many variables, and you know this as to why people are getting cast. But at
100%.
the 100, but at the end of the day, I do think that your work ethic and your talent is going to determine a lot of your outcome and your patience.
Mhm.
But if you continue with it, it will happen for you. But it's something that you do have to have kind of all those
100%.
things.
Everyone's in a different boat. Everyone,
Yeah.
and opportunities come at different times. So, I think mine just took a little bit longer, which is
Yeah.
totally fine. Like I'm
Yeah.
really
But even
excited
in the
about.
grand scheme of things, that's not that long.
No.
Like we hear of people like 10 years of like, just auditioning and yes, small things here or there and like not really.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Well, I have one of my students, and I know she took 7 years to get her first credit, and she's beautiful and good, like a great actress, and like it just was not clicking. And then once she got the first one, it's just she was on a roll. That was
Just
it. Like
roll.
done.
Yeah.
She was just
Yeah.
kept working, but
Yeah.
it took so you just don't know how it's going to fall into place for you and why things aren't clicking. And sometimes it's confidence in the audition. She might have been great in class, but not confident in the audition, and all sorts of things happen. So I
yeah.
think you do get more, you do get better. But what I like about what you said, I really appreciate this. I appreciate this in students too. See, I have had students who've come in and they take one acting class and they're like, so how do you get an agent? Like they want to know, like, I was like, you've never done anything.
Yeah.
And I so appreciate people coming with your work ethic when they're like, I'm not ready for an agent. I want to be good first.
Yeah.
And that's a great place to come by to a point,
Yeah.
because then at a certain point, you got to start getting that experience
Hmm.
auditioning, and you
Absolutely.
might not be
Absolutely.
perfect because then you get the balance between a perfectionist and someone who's like overly confident, and you've got to find that happy medium. So
Yeah. Because
yeah,
you got to get to a place where the casting director can trust you, right?
yeah.
Trust you to do the job because they're paying you like a lot of money to
When you book,
Yeah.
you're
when you book.
hiring a
You're earning a lot of
professional.
money.
Yeah,
So yeah, absolutely. And I think, in the beginning, I've had those conversations as well with, people who are just starting out, and I mean, honestly, I was one of those people too. But then I learned from that,
yeah,
just that eagerness to get jump started, But then it's like I learned how important it is to build up that resume, even with like short films or independent films, student films, and all that stuff, theater, musical theater, and all that stuff, and get to a place where you're confident enough to go into that audition room without casting being like, oh, can't trust this person to say two lines.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't want to
exactly.
ruin that first impression.
No, not at all. Yeah.
And are you
So nice.
auditioning also in Toronto? Do you have some Toronto credits? Is that through art that you're auditioning for both?
Yeah,
or-
yeah. I'm
Okay.
with Amanda
You
Rosenthal
are.
in
Yeah.
Toronto, so same agency, but yeah, two different agents. Yeah, I auditioned both in Toronto, Montreal. They represent me throughout Canada as well. So
Yeah.
And do you have, since you started with Amanda Rosenthal, was it through the self tapes, or did you have to do the old mega bus back in the day?
Oh,
That's
I
everybody we
I
talk to. They're like the mega bus when they were trying to.
I cannot stand the Megabus, so don't sue me, Megabus.
They will not be our sponsor. I don't think.
Okay, great. No, I made the move to Toronto. I made the move to Toronto for 9 months.
Oh, so you moved
And
there?
I moved there.
You did. Okay.
Although I was back every weekend to teach, because I didn't want to do a side job in Toronto while I'm like auditioning and stuff. So I came back to Montreal on the weekends,
Yeah.
trained back to Toronto during the week, came back, so back and forth. So that was my life for 9 months.
Wow.
It was a lot. And then I was like, nope, can't do this anymore. My stress level's too high. So, but yeah, no, it was a good experience to like meet the casting directors and stuff. And then once my agent was like, yeah, you can just self-tape, and then we'll just work from there. So I was like,
Great.
And did it help, that experience moving there for 9 months? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I got to meet some great people, and I got to experience what a Toronto room is like. It's very different from Montreal. And
Tell us.
No, it's just they're a little bit
one take,
more
one take wonders.
one
We've
take
had some say you
wonders.
go in for one take and then it's
Yeah,
like, and thank you.
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's a bigger pool there as well, right? A bigger pool of actors, so you're competing against more people, so they have less time to do that. I feel like we're very generous here in Montreal.
Yeah.
Which I'm not complaining. Where if you're watching this, like, please keep doing that. We need it. But yeah, they're more like in and out kind of deal, and a very more, I wouldn't say competitive. Competitive is not the right word, but you just know that everyone's vying for the same.
It feels more of like a business versus
yes,
here. It feels like very community and yeah.
I feel like we're a little bit more excited here when your friends book a job than
yeah.
over. But
we definitely all, but all that to say is we did try to demystify that process, because we just had Hannah Antaki, who works with Sharon Forrest, on, and she was telling us they never went to self tapes, they went straight to Zoom auditions, and she was explaining that she'll get like 300 submissions for a role, and she's got to bring it down to 11. So it is hard in terms of their volume, so much volume, whereas Montreal, they're more interested in seeing new people and new talent and seeing what they can do. So, but she does say, look, we give them 2 takes. I don't give them 1 take, and I want to know. And if they want another take and they say, can I have another take? It's like, yes, please, do another take. So,
of course.
And she was very human and nice. So I said, okay, it's not that bad. Thank you, Hannah.
But I mean, she's also one out of like what, 20, 15 casting directors there. But yeah, it's nice to hear that there are good people. I mean, but
no, everyone on
the
they're very kind and all that stuff. It's just I find it a little bit more intimidating there to get into to work those rooms. I don't know. There's just like a slightly different pressure than
there is a more pressure. Well, think about it. They've picked 1 out of 300. So they want you to deliver. Whereas Montreal, it's a little more like, oh, we have somebody new. And then it's like, oh, it's a little disappointing. We were trying so hard to be good, Whereas they're like, listen, you took somebody's spot. So we love you, but you need to deliver. And
and I feel like
pressure.
I feel like there's
That's not
also
fun.
this.
It's
Oh
like
yeah,
stressful. Like, okay, I'll
True.
deliver, you know.
exactly. And I think there's a desire here to really build up the reputation, because unfortunately, I don't feel like we get the same kind of reputation that like Toronto actors and Vancouver actors do, right? So they
Yeah.
really want to try to boost up, the tapes and how well we do, and to showcase our talents more. So I feel like they're a little bit more like, yeah, let's do it again.
Yeah.
So
Well, I feel like that's a good segue into Transplant because we had a
Yes.
lot of Montreal talent as like leading that cast,
mhm,
right? Let's get into that.
Yeah, I
sure.
want to know about Transplant. How did that go?
Yeah.
How the audition process, the everything? So
Yeah.
let's start with the audition process. How was that? When you found out you auditioned and then you got it. So let's start there.
Yeah, sure. I remember getting the audition for this, and it's a story that me and my agent laugh about to this day, because I remember the breakdown coming in for the recurring roles, and there was I was going in for Arnold, the character that I eventually played. There was another role which was a doctor, and I was like,
Yeah.
I don't want to play a nurse. I want to play a doctor. And so literally, that's like what I sounded like. And it was like, oh, you're a bit young to play this specific specialist. I'm like, oh, fine. Audition for Arnold.
Yeah.
And then I remember going to the audition room. It was packed, packed. It was just all these Montreal auditioning for what I think we knew it was going to be a big show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was just this rumors that it was going to be a not a small show.
Yeah.
And I remember going into my audition just feeling, confident and all that stuff. But right before that, I remember Cassie came out. She's like, sorry, we're running behind, but everyone's just coming in saying lines. And these are big recurring parts. People want to like you,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
need to come in with something. You can't just say line. And then I think, as we talked about that, they want to try to up everyone's auditions. So they were spending a little bit more time on everyone. And then she left and I was up next. So stress. Uh, so
Yeah.
I would go
For
into the
sure.
room. I was feeling confident about my audition, like going in and all that stuff. I knew my lines. And I remember going in and doing my first take. And then she was like, okay, let's do it again. And I was like, yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought I nailed it. But she was just like, no, we need more. And then by the last, it did a couple takes, and the last take she was like, Kenny, be yourself, be Kenny. I'm like, okay. And then I did what I thought Kenny would do, and she's like, that was great, remember that. I'm like, well, I'm not gonna remember that because obviously that was a bad audition.
I'm gonna
And then
try
I
and
left.
forget that.
Yeah, 100%. And I left and I phoned my best friend and I was just like, yeah, I didn't go well. A month later, I found out that they were still casting for Arnold.
Right.
And so I remember emailing my agent being like, okay, I want to re audition. I want to send another tape. I want to do a better job. And I want to just show that I can do this part. And my agent's like, well, if you think you can do a better job, I'm like, I can't do a better job. And then I was like, okay, I'll do it like the day after. 5 o'clock that day, my agent emails me being like, you don't need to tape, you're shortlisted. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Wow.
Sure. Okay. And then in my head, I'm like, should I still retape? I don't trust this tape that
Yeah.
audition. And then literally like 4 days later, they're like, you got the part. And I'm like,
Wow.
Off just that one in-person audition?
Just from that one no callback, just that one in-person audition.
Wow.
Yeah, I was in the metro. I read the email. I'd be like, is this real?
Wow. Because that's also pretty crazy for like a network show to like not do any further auditions. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, especially I didn't know what to expect in terms of like how many days I was going to be working, how many episodes and all that stuff. I was thinking with like 4 or 5 episodes, and now it's been 4 seasons, which was a bit crazy. Yeah. So it was just such a funny route to get there. So yeah, I feel like it was just a very particular circumstance, particular situation. But yeah.
Amazing. Okay.
Yeah.
So how was it? So now we talked about the audition process, which was surprising and also surprising. And this I find happens a lot. It wasn't the role that necessarily you thought was going to be the role that was really speaking to you. And so you just kind of threw this one in there because they wanted to. And then all of a sudden it became a big deal. And that's similar what happened with Amber. Remember, she said she had 2 auditions that day. So one of them she just like sent in her self-tape like a throwaway, and the other one she really put the work into. And the throwaway ended up being like the recurring role on the Netflix show.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you don't
always happens that way, eh?
Yeah.
Always happens that way.
Yeah. But I still believe the work you put into your career is why when you're like, I put this together in like half an hour or whatever, I didn't kill myself. I was really going for the other one. But I still think all the work that you put into the entire kind of in terms of a holistic approach is why it informs your practice. And then when you just let it go, that one is kind of a let it go thing. And then it stands out.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I hope that's kind of how it,
played out.
How it played out for sure.
So then you do 4 seasons. Wow. And how was that experience?
It was I hesitate because I was like, it was through the pandemic. So that it made it particularly difficult, but it was amazing otherwise. I think it was just the fact that we went through some big challenges to get the show made. But otherwise it was such a great cast and crew, and the set, just no toxic personalities on that set. So that was really nice. Yeah.
Was it mainly Canadian?
Yeah, everyone was Canadian. That's why we were able to work through the strike. But yeah, all the creators, all the writers, everything, directors and everything were all Canadian.
Cool. And so what was your favorite part about being on that show?
I don't even know if I can I don't know if I can talk about it yet. I don't know if the episode's out.
Oh, okay. So it might be. Oh, so your favorite part was towards season 4.
No, but I realized I also already posted about it. So I can I already posted about it. My favorite thing that ever happened on the show. In season 4, I was asked. We never really designated my character's last name. It was in the IMDb credits and all that stuff, but we never said it out loud on the show, so it was still kind of up in the air. And then I remember this season, one of the head writer, Rachel Langer, she texts me and she's like, "Hey, we want to finally say Arnold's last name in the show, or show it. What do you want it to be?" It's like, I think we should change it from, because originally it was Arnold DeLuca.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm not half Italian, or and I was like, do you need a middle name as well? And then she's like, yeah, sure. And so I like to honor my late father as much as I can. And his Chinese name was Yokwa Wong. And so I was like, how about this? And then it got approved. And so I was able to change my character's name to Arnold Yokwa Wong, which is in honor of my dad. And I think that's the best thing. Yeah.
And that's also something so special that would likely, well, I wouldn't say only, but really happens when you build those relationships with the writers over those years. And then there's like collaboration, and which is also just so cool, like being part of something for that many years, that many episodes.
Yeah, they've been so wonderful in all aspects. Just, I loved hanging out with them, and they were very also supportive of my writing aspirations, which
Mm.
I'm very grateful. I'll just
Yeah.
say that I'm very grateful for the people I met on that show and for being on that show,
Yeah.
because I learned so much, not just as an actor, but as a writer as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's every actor's dream, really, in Montreal right now. It's kind of like, oh, I would love to get a recurring role on a show,
Yeah.
because for many reasons. First, you get to, just like you say, you get to work with the same cast and crew, and you develop a comfort level where you're able to express yourself and your opinions. You don't feel like you're just the day player who has to get in and get out and join. You can actually feel that you have a voice. Plus, it's nice to know financially you'll be able to pay some bills for the next few months, or
Boy.
even go on a vacation, That's also just because that's such a big part of being a self-employed artist, is like always
For
wondering
sure.
where your next, paycheck is coming from. So having that luxury, and like you said, you make all these contacts and friends, and helps you if you have other artistic and like writing or other things that you want to do. So there's just so many great things of being on this, and it sounds like it was just a wonderful experience, and it did that for you for sure.
Yeah,
Like you
for
got to
sure.
experience all that.
I forget who told me this, and I've been racking my brain about it. Someone told me that this was a life quake.
Mm,
It was like an earthquake in your life that really changed a lot. I was
yeah.
not ashamed to say this because I've told the creator of the show this as well, is
Yeah.
that I had a lot of debt from
Mm,
from student loans, from being
Yeah.
in music school, credit card debt, and all that stuff. And so this show really veered my path, to be out of that. So that's just one of the many things this show has done for me.
yeah.
So when you're talking about like financially, it helped helped me a lot. Then yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
But and you kind of build a family, right? You build a second family
Yeah.
who kind of know you more than um anybody else. I just got out of a long-term relationship, and I stayed with my co-stars because
Mm,
they've been wonderful.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's like, those are like the immediate rewards, you could say, but it's like also meeting these people and making connections like this it almost changes the path of your career and the opportunities, like potentially,
Yeah,
growing your network, and the learning too,
mm,
like from it all. So
And
absolutely.
and also the trust that people, he was, he played Arnold on Transplant. So I'm guessing that the next things that you audition for, you go in with more confidence, and casting directors will have confidence in you.
That's the
yeah.
hope.
Yeah,
Do you think you could be a
yeah.
nurse now? Do you have the trainings to be a
Oh,
nurse?
I'm like, should I
Or
apply to nursing school now? I know how to do chest compressions properly.
Yeah,
Everything
I
else,
feel like it's a pretty cool training because
yeah,
it's like we have our first aid on set with us,
yeah.
Kenny.
I know how to put IVs in if there's no needle. Just
Yeah.
you know.
That's
yeah.
funny.
Cool. So we're gonna wrap it up, but I want to know what's down the pipeline for you, and what are the big goals and the big dreams. That's how we end it. We go big.
Yeah. Um, I'm shooting a film in Toronto right now. Maybe
Nice.
not right now, but like I'm out of Toronto right
Yeah.
now. But which I can't talk about at the moment.
Okay.
But
Okay. But it's
that
happening.
that's gonna take me to about mid-December.
Nice.
Um, and it came at the great time because I was able to, you know, not think about, ending transplant too
Yeah.
Yeah.
much. And what was the other question? I'm sorry.
Big dreams now. So you
Goals.
have in the pipeline, you're still working on a film. So you're still in it, which is fantastic. And now the big dream, what do you hope like 10 years from now? What do you hope
Get
your
Dystonia
life
made.
looks like? Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
That's been my for years.
Yeah.
And so
It's going to happen.
yeah,
It's going to happen.
thanks. I mean,
Yeah.
there's steps have been made, which I can't, which I'm
Again,
very
talk.
happy to say.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I can't necessarily talk about, but yeah, but steps
Yeah.
have been made. Yeah.
Good.
Amazing. Well,
Love to hear it.
congratulations. Yeah, we can't
Thank you.
wait.
Thanks for
Wrap
having
it
me.
up
It was a
now.
lot of fun.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So for today's takeaways, 1, be open for redirection. You never know what great things can come from it. 2, building a foundation to your craft is key to your success. 3, keep working on your craft and keep training. And 4, working on your own projects can keep your creative flame alive. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
If you're enjoying this podcast, we would really appreciate it if you could take a moment to support us.
Leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. You can share this podcast with your friends and colleagues and follow us on social media at Book the Room Podcast.
We put out episodes weekly, so subscribe to the shows to get notified.